What if I told you that humanity once stood on the edge of a technological breakthrough, a discovery so powerful it could have changed the world centuries earlier? But because of one decision, one mindset, and one massive mistake, human progress was delayed by nearly 100 years. This isn't a story about war or a lack of intelligence. It's a story about the fear of change. And by the end of this video, you'll realize this mistake isn't just history, it's still happening today. Right now, all around us. Let's travel back in time, to Europe in the late Middle Ages. Picture a world where most people couldn't read or write. Knowledge was a rare commodity, tightly controlled by a small elite. The church, royal courts, and a handful of scholars. If you wanted a book, it had to be copied by hand, one single page at a time. A single book could take months, sometimes years, to produce. And the cost, it was astronomical, often more than an average person would earn in their entire lifetime. In T's world, information moved at a crawl. Ideas were fragile, easily lost or suppressed. Progress, whether in science, medicine, or philosophy, depended entirely on who was allowed to learn. It was a world of information scarcity, where power was held by those who controlled the flow of knowledge. But then, something truly revolutionary began to take shape. Around the early 1400s, long before Johannes Gutenberg became a household name, inventors across Europe started experimenting with a groundbreaking concept: movable type printing. The idea was simple, but incredibly powerful. Instead of copying entire pages by hand, you could use individual, reusable letters made of metal or wood, arrange them to form words, sentences, and pages, cover them in ink, and press them onto paper. This wasn't just a slightly better way of doing things. It was a quantum leap. Movable type promised faster reproduction, meaning books could be made in days, not years. It promised mass distribution, bringing the cost down so that knowledge was no longer just for the wealthy. This one invention held the key to unlocking a new era for humanity. Imagine the possibilities. Education for the common person would no longer be a distant dream. The latest scientific discoveries could spread like wildfire, accelerating innovation. Citizens could become more informed, leading to greater accountability for those in power. It was a tool that could dismantle the old world and build a new one, founded on shared knowledge and opportunity. This breakthrough should have been celebrated, embraced as the dawn of a new age. But instead, in many places, it was met with fear and rejection. And the reason why is simple. Knowledge is power, and power was something the old guard had no intention of sharing. So, what happened? Instead of embracing this world-changing printing technology, many authorities actively suppressed it. The ruling classes, the religious institutions, the gatekeepers of the old order, they saw printing not as a gift, but as a direct threat. They feared a loss of control. They worried that widespread literacy would challenge religious authority and undermine their carefully constructed social hierarchies. They were terrified of ordinary people beginning to ask questions, to challenge long-held beliefs, to think for themselves. Their reaction was swift and decisive. In some regions, printed materials were outright banned. Those strict laws were passed, restricting who could own a printing press and who could buy books. Innovators who dared to push this technology forward were often silenced, their work ignored or even destroyed, while a few forward-thinking areas did begin to adopt printing. Vast parts of the world deliberately chose to slow progress. Let's be clear. This wasn't a decision born from ignorance. The people in power understood exactly how powerful this technology was. That's precisely why they feared it. They made a conscious choice. They chose control over curiosity. They chose stability over progress. And that single choice had staggering consequences. It put the brakes on human advancement, delaying the scientific revolution, widespread education, and economic growth by almost a full century. What were the real, human costs of this delay? It's a part of the story we rarely talk about. Because progress was stalled, crucial medical knowledge spread at a snail's pace. Treatments and anatomical discoveries that could have saved countless lives remained locked away in exclusive libraries. As a result, diseases that could have been better understood or contained continued to kill millions of people unnecessarily. Scientific discoveries that were being made took decades longer to be verified, shared, and built upon by other great minds. Imagine a world where the insights of a Da Vinci or a Copernicus could have been instantly shared with thousands of thinkers instead of just a handful. Innovation was stuck behind a wall of privilege. Genius was everywhere, but opportunity was not. Think about it. What if medicine had advanced 100 years earlier? How many pandemics could have been lessened? What if engineering and architecture had evolved sooner? What if mass education had become a reality a century before it did? Our entire timeline of history could look completely different, all because a few people in power chose to protect their status instead of empowering humanity. But, of course, you can't stop an idea whose time has come. Eventually, printing technology could no longer be contained. The dam of suppression broke, and the printing press exploded across Europe. And what followed was one of the most incredible periods in human history. The widespread availability of books fueled the Renaissance, spreading art, literature, and humanist ideas far and wide. It ignited the scientific revolution, allowing figures like Galileo, Newton, and Kepler to share their work, challenge old dogmas, and build upon each other's discoveries at an unprecedented speed. It laid the foundation for modern education systems and representative governments. Once information was set free, human potential multiplied exponentially. Progress was no longer a slow, linear crawl. It became exponential. It accelerated. The world was remade, not by kings or armies, but by the free flow of ideas. It proved that when you give people access to information, you unleash a force more powerful than any empire. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. This story isn't just a lesson from the history books. It's a mirror. The same mistake, the same fear of change, is repeating itself today. We see the same pattern of resistance every time a disruptive new technology emerges. Think about the conversations happening right now around artificial intelligence. We hear the fear of job loss, the worry about losing control, the calls to slow it down or regulate it into stagnation. We see it with other new technologies, with disruptive business models, and with young innovators who challenge the old way of doing things. Every generation faces the exact same choice that our ancestors faced in the 15th century. Do we protect the old, comfortable systems, even if they're inefficient and outdated? Or do we embrace uncomfortable, messy, unpredictable progress? History shows us one thing very clearly. The biggest barrier to human advancement is not a lack of great ideas. It's our own fear of change. So, the biggest mistake that delayed human progress by 100 years wasn't a failed invention or a miscalculation. It was a choice, the choice to resist the future. And the real question we have to ask ourselves is this: when the next great breakthrough appears on our horizon, will we have the courage to embrace it? Or are we doomed to repeat the same mistake, choosing fear over progress and delaying our own future? Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, consider subscribing for more content that challenges the way we see the world.